it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So, Donald Trump, I actually agree with him on this. Shockingly, I agree with him on this. It's hilarious as can be. This is from The Guardian. Donald Trump rebukes NATO leaders for not paying their NATO bills. This is awesome. So, National Alliance Treaty Organization, all these countries, for the most part, were in alliance as a bulwark against quote-unquote Soviet aggression. This thought that we can cobble ourselves together to attack or prevent the Soviet Union from attacking us. The smaller states. If one of us gets attacked, all of us are attacked. That's the thought. Question becomes, when the Soviet Union went bust, NATO lingered, kind of like a ghost of sorts, not necessarily having a purpose and not necessarily having a reason for its existence, and yet it was still there. Donald Trump has taken the unprecedented step of lecturing world leaders on their chronic failure to pay for their own defense as they gathered in front of them for unveiling memorials to NATO's role in keeping the peace around the world. The United States president broke with diplomatic norms to use his speech at a NATO meetings in Brussels to directly castigate 23 of 28 members for failing to spend enough on defense, leaving taxpayers of the United States to pick up the tab. Wow, that's amazing. That's awesome. I've been very direct with Secretary Stoltenberg and members of the alliance in saying NATO members must finally contribute their fair share to meet their financial obligations. But 23 of 28 nations are still not paying what they should be paying and what they're supposed to be paying for their defense. This is not fair to the people and taxpayers of the United States. And many of these nations owe massive amounts of money for past years and not paying in those past years. That's amazing. That's amazing. Wow. Now, believe it or not, for NATO, I think NATO, look, those organizations sometimes create their own monsters. It's like the very act of you having an organization in that way necessitates the need for that other thing to exist. So NATO creates itself as a bulwark against the Soviet Union. Well, the Soviet Union needs to exist now because NATO threatens its existence. It's a weird quagmire. It's like these things create their own momentum. These things are also internally persistent, if that makes sense. It's almost like each thing, whatever that thing is, has a need to persist itself. It doesn't necessarily matter what it is. I know of no entity or body that says, I'm ready to go. Yes, a person may be ill and everything else and get to the point of saying, I'm ready to go. But whether it's a person, whether it's a company, whether it's an organization, whether it's a group, those things tend to try to persist themselves. It just seems to be the way it is. NATO's the same way. Now, I don't know if it's because these people are getting paid for their jobs and they want to keep their jobs. That probably has something to do with it. But I suspect the organization is a power center. It's a power center. Who gives up a power center? They tend to be self-persisting. But Trump is kind of making a good point. Look, if you guys are going to have this edifice, if this thing is going to be here, you should pay for it. The United States taxpayers should not be the only ones carrying NATO in this way. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. And look, again, it's not because I love NATO. It's this thing of, if you're going to have it, pay for it. If you're going to have it, pay for it. If you're going to have this military of sorts, or this alliance that's there for God knows what reason at this point, since the Soviet Union no longer exists, but if you're going to have this edifice there, then yeah, you need to pay for that edifice. You need to pay rent on your house. You got to take care of your kids. It just kind of comes along with the territory. Now, there's another point to this. Trump is grandstanding. Trump is absolutely grandstanding. He said, when he was on the campaign trail, he made this point of saying they're going to pay their fair share. They're going to pay their fair share. Now, if you're a showman, what would you do to get across to your base? Hey, I said this on the campaign trail, and I am now doing this. And I'm not just doing this just anywhere. I'm doing this in front of the world leaders themselves. I am wagging my finger at these guys. I am Donald goddamn Trump. And I am telling them you're going to pay more for your defense. You and those welfare states are going to pay more. The American taxpayers are not going to keep footing the bill. That's a powerful statement. And yes, that is going to filter down at some point. That is going to fall into the newspaper. The people are going to see it like, holy shit, Donald Trump said it. I'm willing to wager that Trump supporters are going to think that's badass. I'm willing to wager that. And again, I still, to some degree, I think he's right on it. Should he have done it like that? Oh, God, that's somewhat of a gross, embarrassing way to do it. But again, this is politics. Trump doesn't care about the politics of these other countries. Who gives a shit about the politics in Germany? He cares about the politics in the United States. The United States pays his paycheck. We're the ones who makes the determination on whether he's going to get elected again. He doesn't care about those people. He cares about how it's perceived here. Now, if you're a showman, I keep going back to this point. If you're a showman, yes, you're going to perform in this way. Beyond performing in this way, it's an easy campaign promise. It's an easy promise. So, yes, I'm going to keep these people from coming into the country. Okay, that's harder to pull off, but they can see him trying to do it. At the very least, he's trying to do it. Yes, I'm going to kill the TPP. He comes in office. He murders the TPP. Now, he comes with NAFTA and all this other stuff. And yes, he moderated his language on it. But ultimately, he did try to do something with it. Now, there's a host of other stuff that Trump lied about. Particularly for stuff that runs counter to Republican ideology. So, I'm not saying he didn't lie about his track record. I'm saying when he's confronted with stuff that's easy wins, he takes those easy wins. He takes those easy wins. And I'm not saying lecturing, the other nations is an easy win. Maybe it is. I mean, it depends on personality, I guess. What I do know is, if you were shameless and you were a master politician in the sense of willing to take, squeeze every last inch of political something out of the situation, that is what you do. That is what you do. He told his base he was going to do it. He gets up there and tells the world leaders exactly what he told his base he was going to tell those world leaders. Do what you're supposed to do. Look, it comes across as vulgar and gross, but again, he did what he told them he was going to do. That's a win. At the very least, it's a win for them. If you're going to have NATO kicking about, you need to pay for it. The point is, why is NATO still there? The Soviet Union is no longer exists. And at some point I heard they were going to try to use it for terrorism and stuff like this. They're just looking for a justification for their existence. The thing I dislike about these type of organizations is they create monsters to justify themselves. The monsters may or may not be there. Ultimately, they create those monsters because it allows them to some level of justification, that affirms their existence in that sense. So yes, NATO needs Russia in order to exist, because otherwise there will be no reason for NATO. Yes, NATO is going to turn itself to terrorism because, again, NATO needs a reason to justify its existence. I think this is a win for Trump. Honestly, I actually think this one is a win for Trump. The Saudi Arabia thing looked absolutely gross. Yeah, that looks absolutely gross. But in this particular point, I would imagine his base would like it. I would imagine his base would like it. And not just his base would like it, he has a point. If you guys are going to be a part of this organization, you should pay for this organization. I don't think that's crazy at all. I think that makes all the sense in the world. So, alright, I'll leave it at that. Alright guys, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and you can always support the work through Patreon. Thank you.